we can go ahead and just feel comfortable, and you're doing great, sir.
Where did you first see combat? I know I asked you this a little bit ago, but just try to get us back on track.
Well, a little bit in New Guinea.
Okay.
Then Cape Gloucester. And that island there, we took the bottom half, the southern half, up to a place where they called Tallahassee, the river. And the Japs had one of the biggest naval bases in the northern part, Rabaul. And they had over 100,000 troops up there, but they didn't know we were only one division. They never crossed the line. And if they'd have known, it wiped us out.
You back to work now?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It's okay.
so that was something,
Okay. Now, I got this listed here. I got this as the big question. Your most memorable experience?
During the war.
Yeah, during the war. Your most memorable experience during the war?
I guess it'd be in Palau.
Palau?
Yeah. Ooh, that was awful.
When did Palau start? I don't recall.
I couldn't give you the right date.
Month and year. I can't remember the month.
Let's see, that'd have to be 44.
Yeah, it was early 44, wasn't it? Or late? I can't remember. To be honest with you.
No, it'd be late 44, I think. And in Palau, we lost so many guys in that. And we were there, and took us about almost 4 months before we cleaned it out.
I remember it was supposed to take 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're crazy.
Yeah.
33,000 Imperial Marines there, and they were dug in, on them 5 hills, and we called them the 5 fingers, and they looked like fingers, and the airfield was right under. And, and we took that part. The 1st Regiment got practically wiped out. They went from the right flank, we hit them head on, and the 5th and the 7th from the left flank. And then when we got the commanding ground on top, we sealed them in, all the openings, and they had, camouflage doors, you couldn't even see them. And we sealed them in there, they couldn't get out. And about 1950 something, in a repository I saw where they were enlarging the airfield for the big jets, and they had to blow them hills. Oh, well, they were really almost mountains, Had to blow them up to make it larger. And when they did it, they opened up them caves, and they had small gauge track inside for their artillery. They moved it around, and they had barracks. They had everything in there, water, food for over a year. And when we sealed them in, they couldn't get out, and they suffocated, lack of oxygen. Now, we went into the peninsulas. That island was pretty big. And one funny thing happened. We were on this peninsula, and Fox Company, we took the top of the hills, and the Japs had the rest of the hill. On the other side of the peninsula was George Company. And as they're coming down along the ocean, the Japs got surrounded, and they were running out of ammunition and stuff, so they called for help, and we were the closest ones. And we had one officer left at that time, and he says to me, get me 3 guys, and a mortar, and a machine gun, and all the ammunition 3 guys can carry.
Thank you.
He says, we got to help George Company. And so I went and I looked at my men, I got the 2 healthiest guys I had. And I picked 2 healthiest guys, and we go up and we get the stuff. And he says, I said 3 men. I says, well, that's 3 of us. He says, you're not going. I says, I never send my men any place unless I go with them. And that's what I did. I never send them any place unless I went with them. So the 3 of us got down at the end of this hill, and at the end of the peninsula, and we got to run across sand. And the Japs can shoot us from that same hill that our company's on top, from their caves. So I told the two, now, don't take no shortcuts. Go back and forth, zigzag, because they're gonna be shooting at us. Somehow we got across. And when we got across, it was a hut made out of CUNY grass. You know, it's like grass, like straw. And so we thought there might be Japs in there, so we infiltrated, you know, gradually. And there was nobody there. And we saw boxes of stuff there. So I always carried a rope, real thin, not as thick as, you know, a big rope. Man, maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. So I tied one of the boxes, the lid, and we got out and we opened it, figuring it might be a booby trap. And there was sake in there. So I told the guys, well, we'll leave it. We better get this stuff up to George Company. We'll get some on the way back. But going up, we infiltrated up in the jungle. It was right up to the edge. It was about 3 feet deep. And we were crawling, one guy after the other. And George Company knew we got across there. Our company told them we got across, so they sent a squad down to help us carry the stuff, because we was carrying 100 pounds each. We get up there, and they had a regular captain. The guy was a regular from the beginning of the war. And I says to him, boy, he's in bad shape here. I says, you're worse off than Fox Company, where I come from. I says, I'll call that lieutenant up and tell him we'll stay here and help you. So when I called back, that lieutenant says to me, he says, I run this company. He says, now you get your asses back here and right away. This guy couldn't believe it. So now we had to go back. I told him we were lucky to get across there. So on the way back, I says, take one. That's why I made my first mistake. I took one, and they were quartz, you know. I put one in my pack, I'm going back empty. So Jones was one of the guys. He put one in his pack. The other guy, he was from southern Ohio. I'll think of his name in a minute. He filled his pack. And then on top of it, loosened his belt, and put the bottom part down, and here, put 3 in his fingers, swung his rifle. I told him, you're more valuable than that, I says to him, but I didn't give him the order to drop it. So now we're heading back, we're zigging and zagging, and when they get close to me, you dive, find a little sand dune, you know, get behind it, and I look back, and here he comes, and this machine gun had a zone, right in front of him, it was firing, you know. I hollered at him, hit it, hit it. He wouldn't hit it. He didn't want to break the bottles. All of a sudden, they hit him here and come out of here. Went right through his lungs. So me and Jones dug little holes, you know, in the sand, getting back to him. Pulled him into a shell hole. We stuffed the holes with his sleeves and that. I says, Jones, you stay here. I'll go get some help to get him out of here. And I went out the back end and got back. And you know, we didn't have tanks until then. And that was the first American tank we had. They finally got tanks now. And this tank was right at the edge of this hill. And this guy was sticking out, an officer. I jumped on the tank. I told him, I got a man out there about 600 yards. You gotta go get him. He's wounded. He says, who are you? I told him, Sergeant Athans, Fox Company. He says, this tank doesn't move without orders. Now I was carrying a Thompson, but I had a slum. I pulled out the 45 and put it right between his eyes. I said, you just got the order. And the tank moved. So now, we get across there, you know, small arms ain't gonna hurt a tank. Because they had nothing else except small arms. We get there, he was dead, so we put his body on the tank. We come back on the other side of the tank, and we get back. And when I got back to the company, Walt calls to report to the battalion CP. So I get there and he says, here's what I got to report. I said, yeah, that's accurate. He said, would you have shot him? I said, yeah, if he wouldn't have moved the tank. The next guy in command would have moved it. He says, I'd have done the same thing. So now that's what he said. So now he pulls out it was a pint of whiskey. You know, the sailors coming in here, bringing stuff, the officers they get rations in the Navy. The guys that didn't drink would give it to the officers in the Marine Corps. So he had a pint. So he says, get your canteen out. I'm not a drinker, and I got Valerian yellow rod. I'm not supposed to be drinking, right? So I put it out, put some in there, I drank it, and I got drunk. He only give you that much in the canteen, but when you got Valerian jungle rot, you don't drink. You get drunk. I had another incident with him when we got to the Russell Islands. It was going to be our base of operations. Wherever we go, we come back here and get replacements. So he says to me, we just got there, we put tents up, we cleared the jungle, you know, and dug trenches, because it rained so much, you know, to drain out the water, and there used to be swamps. And he says, give me a 40-man working party. So I got 40 guys, and reported to him. He says, there's a ship down there in the harbor that's giving us supplies. He says, you go down and unload it. So I get down there, and the officer of the deck takes me down in the hole and shows me what's got to be taken out. In the width of that ship, it was like a Liberty ship, you know. It was sea rations on this side, and you have the bands, a metal band, so it don't tip, you know, when you're in bad sea weather, you know. And I looked on the other side of the aisle, and it was beer, Blatz. I says, where's this going? He says, it's going to India. I said, we don't have no troops in India. He says, that's where it's going. So now, I went out and got 20 guys inside, and this net would come down, a big net, and sea rations, the box is about that high, like that. Well, the beer cans were half as big, you know, they were beer cans, you know. So I says to the guys, what we'll do is, now I'm not a drinker. The first layer, 4 by 4 by 4. Lay it down. In the middle, put beer. And then built it up. On the top, nothing but the sea rations, you know. When the officer of the deck, when they come up, he'd stop it and count 4 by 4 by 4, you know. Mark it down. How many is going out, right? And I told the guys on the trucks, a bulldozer went through there and knocked down woods and stuff, made a little trail. I says, throw the beer off into the underbrush, and we'll go get it after we're done working. So now, I made a mistake. You know, in the hole, when it's 120 degrees in the tropics, and this is a steel deck, it's hot as hell down in there. It's like 160, you can't breathe. So them guys down in the hole wore out. So I took the guys from the trucks, 20, put them in, took these guys out, and I told these guys, the first group, now, if you do drink, put it back in the boxes and haul it out. I didn't tell the second group. Guess what? After the working party's over, I didn't go check. After we get to the company, you know, area, the officer says to me, he says, Lieutenant Colonel Walt called, and he wants you to bring the working party down to his office. His tent, you know. I knew something was wrong. So I got him. We go in by rank. Privates first. The guy come out and I says to him, what did he ask you? He asked me if I indulged. What did you say? He denied it. Everybody denied it, including the PFCs and the corporals they had. Everybody denied it. So I knew we were in trouble. He says, I'm last going in. He says, you take the working party back and build a brig. Get concertina wire from division under that coconut grove and set up a guard. Some got 30 days, bread and water, right? The PFC, I think he got 30, and then they were all deck court martials, not summary, nothing big. And then some got 60. So got it built. They had to be in jail. No cover. They got to sleep there and everything. So he says, after you get it built, come and see me. I says, now I get punished. So I go and he pulls out. He says, did you indulge? I says, yeah, I did. Because I figured somebody had to do something wrong. He said, sit down. And his desk was made out of a log, you know, trees to cut down. And when he cleared the jungle, logs for your chair. He says, pull out your canteen. So I filled it up with whiskey. And me and him were talking and drinking. It's monsoon season, right? Big storm comes in. It's raining like hell. And all of a sudden, he falls off the chair. Passed out. I went to get up and I was petrified. I didn't realize whiskey could do that to you. I finally got on the ground. I went over and I grabbed him. I'm crawling. I got him on his cot. So I thought, well, I better take a shortcut, go back to my tent area. Instead of going down the street, you know, and then across, I took a shortcut. I started going through tents, other companies. And they'd look at me and I'm crawling. They thought, what's wrong with this guy? I was drunk. I couldn't get up. That night the storm got so bad, I did get to my cot and I took my shoes off only. I laid back and we didn't have a mattress or anything, just the canvas. In the morning, when the sun come up, I woke up and I was bent like this. You know, you got the legs crossed in the front, the one in the middle. It stretched the canvas and there was a foot of water all over, you know. The trenches we built, the drain, that it rained so much, you know, there it rains heavy. My shoes were missing. Everybody's looking for clothes and shoes and stuff. The tent blew away. I didn't even wake up. That's why I don't drink. I still don't drink.
How did you, how did you pass the time when, like, in the Russells and you were kind of in this quiet, out of the...
Well, a lot
combat?
of training. We always got the replacements, you know, and
Yeah.
we're training. And then we did steal a movie projector from the Navy, and one film, King's Row. And every night, built a screen in that, you know, and painted it silver in that, and cut the logs down, and you sat on logs, you know, on a hill. I don't care. We saw that movie 100 times in 100 days. After the training was over, everybody was there to see the movie. But you knew it. But you kept going, even if it rained. Play it. You could hardly see the screen, right? There was something to do.
So when was the last time you saw Kings Row?
Oh. After that,
Yeah.
I didn't see it until I got out.
Yeah.
When I got out of the hospital, I seen it. On TV once in a while I see it. And that's the only film we had. They didn't have any others. We broke the machine down, the guy took it apart, everybody stole a part. And he put it together when we got out.
What kind of activities did you do for, like, maybe recreation? I mean, times when you weren't watching that movie, Kings Row, I mean, playing cards, dice?
Yeah, dice or cards, that's the only thing you had. And then did have one time they had a volleyball in the net. You played volleyball, but it was hot. You couldn't last very long in the sun. Playing volleyball.
Could we get the when you got it hurt real, you know, when you got wounded real bad? We missed the beginning.
Do you want to get that again?
If we could, like kind of like right before you got wounded, what were you doing, and then could you?
Yeah, the initial.
Oh.
I guess your initial arrival.
I was setting up a OP in front of our line.
Yeah.
And it was about
And this was on which island?
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Okinawa. Okay.
And I told the guys, well, spread out 25 yards apart and we'll converge on that hill where we're going to set the OP up. And that's where halfway across the machine gun opened up on the right side. And I got hit. That officer from the Navy, from a heavy cruiser, he was going to give us 14 and 16-inch shells. He got hit in the knees, and the third guy over got hit in the ankles. The other 4 guys were safe. The hill protected them. We'd have known we'd have all gone from the left side, but we didn't know. Now we get there, and I told them, dig in, because they know why we're here. Can't dig in, it's all rock. Build rocks around yourself. I said, get rocks and build a little parapet around yourself. And there was a rock almost as big as that window in the front. And I go to see what's in front of us. And about a mile in front of us, it was a valley, and it ran parallel to our line. And that's where they'd come from. And when they'd come, they'd come in for us. And we didn't see them until they got past that hill. It was too late. We didn't have enough guys left, you know, and we were thin. So what happened is, they knew what we were doing, and they threw a shell in there. We got zeroed in on them 2 draws with the Navy and artillery and everybody. And then a shell come in from the Jap side. The first one hit way behind me, but the concussion pushed me against this rock. I'm the only guy standing. And as I went to get up, the second one come and hit me. And hit me. Half of the shell hit me. And then I was up in the air, and a lot of shells come in there. Because when I came to, the only thing I could move was my arm, my left arm, the right arm. And you know, I kept dragging myself back because the other guys were in parts. And that's where that corpsman found me. I thought I made it back, but I never did make it back to the line.
Were you ever, before that point, and then up to that point, I guess, included, did you ever experience any time when you were in extreme fear or real fearful? I mean,
Well, the first couple of times we went in combat, you know,
Yeah.
landings, you were scared that day. Once you get to the beach and you start getting in combat, you forget about the fear.
Yeah.
But fear part is getting there.
do you remember the first time you engaged the Japanese? And do you remember first time that you come in contact with a Japanese soldier or Marine or anything like that?
Yeah, going through the jungle, I was the rear guard. It was a battalion, and we're cutting through the jungle, and it was thick, you know, and I was the rear guard, the last guy. And so all of a sudden, this Jap come out of the underbrush, and he had, you know, they had them long rifles. Before he could lower the rifle down, I hit him with a machine gun. Now that's the guy that I never forgot his face. But all the other ones, you know, it's long range and that, you don't know if you hit him or somebody else hit him. But that's the only one that I remember distinctly, that I remember his face. And then during that episode, when we were gone, this Marine was laying against a tree, and he's sitting on his helmet. And I went over to him, and my sister, I looked at him, I said, "What's wrong?" He couldn't talk. And he was breathing like he had asthma. I thought, geez, how'd he get in the Marine Corps if he's got asthma, you know? And I looked at him, he wasn't shot or anything. So I got the guy in front of me, I says, "Get the word out, get a corpsman back here." So this corpsman came, I told him, "What's wrong with this guy?" He went over and checked him. He's got a jungle rot. A jungle rot, yeah. He's got it in the lungs. I said, "What are you going to do for him?" He said, "Nothing I can do." He says, "I'm going to give him a shot of morphine." And he said, "He'll be dead in no time." It would shock me, you know. That's when I learned about jungle rot. So I says to him, "Tell him that I'm going to stay back here with him." passed the word up. Corbin left, and I was back there with him, and, and he acted like he wanted to smoke, So I pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and give it to him. Did get it up to his mouth. He took one drag, then he held it out here, and then all of a sudden the cigarette rolled off his fingers right into the mud, and it's raining. And then his hand fell, and he fell over, fell off the helmet. I thought, I wonder if this guy's dead. What do I know about medicine, right? So I started checking him. And in the jungles there, a body starts swelling right away. You can see features changing. I said, he is dead. He wasn't breathing. I couldn't find a pulse. So I pulled him in the underbrush, got the map out and marked where it was, about, where it was. And then when our column caught up where we're going, I went ahead of our company and kept asking if this guy was there. I took one of these dog tags. And finally, I found the company that he belonged to. So I give it to them. He was the sergeant, but he said, I'll give it to the lieutenant. And I told him, and marked it on his map where it was. And in the jungles, after the place is cleared, and it's over, like in the Mylands, there's a grave registrar comes in and finds the bodies. They're either buried or where they were hit, and they couldn't get them out. And that's where they find them. You're looking for them. So then in that campaign, that was in Cape Gloucester. And it wasn't long, I got jungle rot. I went to change my socks, We came to a stream, it wasn't changing, I was gonna go in there and wash. I took my leggings off, my shoes off, and when I went to take the socks off, my skin come off. I was, geez, prime, and then I could see my foot swelling. And we had them high tops up to here. I couldn't get my shoe on, so I cut the back end off, in the back, so I can get in there, tied it as tight as I could, put the leggings on before my foot swelled. So I thought, well, I'll just wash with my clothes on, what you have, just trousers and a jacket. Got in that stream, washed. A lot of times we didn't wash for 2 or 3 weeks. We had no way of getting, washed up or shave or anything. And then I knew I had jungle rot. And I still get it. When it gets hot and humid.
Were there a lot of casualties from jungle rot? A lot of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, eventually even if they didn't die then, they die even after they get out. Yeah. See, jungle rot can kill you. It gets to your lungs. One year it almost got to my lungs. It got in my bronchial tubes. And I was having a hard time breathing, Got lucky. Because the weather changed and the temperature drops. Once it gets down around 60, then your blood starts getting thicker and it becomes dormant again. See, you never get rid of malaria or jungle rot. It's in your body. If I'd give somebody my blood, in one day they'd be dead. Because they'd have hepatitis B, jungle rot, malaria, and they have no resistance for it. But if you survive it, gradually you got a resistance. When I first got out, I used to get malaria, and the last time I got malaria was 1959. But I stay away from the South. They told me, don't go to the South. Tropical weather, semi-tropical. And then you get that jungle rot. I do get jungle rot. And I had an experience, I went to the veterans. I got this jungle rot that year, bad. So I thought maybe they found something for a cure or something. So I went down to the Veterans Administration, and this doctor was, Rodway was her name, Rodway. She says, what can I do for you, Mr. Athans? I says, I come down to see if you ever found anything for jungle rot. She says, you got it? I said, yeah. She says, where do you have it? I says, all over. She says, take your jacket off and your shirt off. I had a big spot in the back of my back about the size of a lemon. She said, I never seen it so bad. She says, you got it all over? I said, yeah. She says, strip. Now we're in her office, and there's a big window right there, and people are walking back and forth there, right? I did, a strip. She says, I never seen it so bad. She says, I'll give you some salves, you mix them together, and put it on, and it won't itch. But nothing to cure it. There's no such thing as a cure. Yep.
You've obviously learned a lot of skills, I guess you could say. I mean, your resourcefulness seems
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Do you have any other stories of maybe some examples of your resourcefulness? I think last time I talked to you, you told me a story about putting coffee in a mortar can. How you went about
yeah.
how you went about getting
Oh,
that.
yeah, save the souvenirs.
Yeah.
And when you get on a Navy ship, them guys look for souvenirs. So I'd go to the cook, you know, the head cook. I told him, I got this souvenir. How would you like to have it? Okay. I says, I don't want no money. You would do what? I says, grind up coffee, make it pulverized, real fine, and fill it. I'd have a canister of the mortar shell, and fill this up with sugar. So if I had a lot of, one time, you know, there was about 25 of us that did left, and you know, I says to him, we had a lot of souvenirs, you know, I said, we'll give you all these souvenirs, Japanese flag, we give them a hair carry knife, and all kind of stuff, you know. I said, but here's what you gotta do. At night, you gotta feed us steak and French fries. And we sneaked down there, he wasn't allowed to. And we put a guard on, you know, the ladder's coming down, going up, put guards out, send 3 guys in, and they'd eat first. They come out, send 3 more in, and this guy would make steak and French fries and salad. Only the officers were getting that. Yeah, I never got caught at it either.
They still have their privileges like that. But
Yeah, and one time, I was carrying the mortar, you know, the mortar, and fire hit, you know, and the machine gun opened up. And I dove, and I had it on my shoulder, you know. And when I dove, it looked like dirt. But there was a rock under there, and it cut this mortar, and it came back and hit me, and broke my tooth off. Now, the nerve is exposed, right? So when we got on the ship, I told this dentist, how would you like to have this souvenir? And he didn't have electrical, you know, for operating his drill. He pumped with a foot. And I told him, you can have it, fix his tooth. He fixed it for me at night. You gotta be resourceful, you know.
Gotta get done what you gotta get done.
Yeah.
I know you talked about the Palau and the casualties there. Your particular unit, do you know how many casualties there were? I mean, during the duration of the war? About
No, I
No.
wouldn't know what the duration.
Yeah.
You mean on Okinawa?
I mean, well, the whole time that you were with that unit, do you have an idea? I mean,
No.
generally how many replacements would you go through, or, I mean, how many would come in?
A lot.
A lot?
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's probably, yeah, tough to even think about that,
Yeah.
too.
Right.
Any of the, I know I looked in your photo album there, any of those Marines that went to basic training with you, did they also serve with you in the Pacific? I mean, did you know any of them personally?
No.
No.
They all went different ways,
Yeah.
you know. For their advanced training,
Mm-hmm.
they went to different places. Like radio men, what else? Yeah, some became, I call them seagoing Marines, you know,
Yeah.
on ships, like guards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's all kinds. Some went into corpsmen, get training for corpsmen, and then the radio men. Radio, that's the one I flunked. You go in this room, and they come with the code, you know, Morse code, and they run it about 3 times, and then you're tested. Now they run it, and You're supposed to mark down what it is, you know. I flunked it. The guy says, you purposely flunked it. I said, no, I didn't. I got the S and the O, that's all. You know why I got that? I kept hearing, you know, on television, on the movies, you know, SOS, save our ship, right? So I knew the S, three dashes, 3 dots, 3 dashes.
Three dots, 3 dashes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a radioman.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was radioman also.
Was it? That's the only thing I got when you're going through that code, you know. 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 dots, right.
You left the service in 47. That's when you were mustered out from the hospital, right?
Yeah,
March 47.
yeah. Actually, not in March.
No.
Well, yeah, actually March, but I was still in the service.
Yeah.
They sent me to a Veterans Hospital. Yeah, from Great Lakes Naval Hospital. I was in so long, you know. I don't know why. Do I know why? I said something I shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
But, the officers didn't like it. So they transferred me to Veterans Hospital where you had to pay. You know, you buy stuff, you know, toothpaste and stuff, shaving gear, you had to pay now. And you're not getting no pay. So I didn't wise up. I'm still a patient, you know. And then all of a sudden one day, you know, I thought, Jesus Christ, I was never mustered out. I was overseas all the time. The only time anything was drawn out of my pension, my wages, was one time when they paid us just to give us something to do. Everybody got $200. You either shot dice or played poker, just to give us something different, diversion. I thought, Jesus Christ. So I calls back to the last place I was at, Great Lakes Naval Hospital, and there was some Marines there, Great Lakes. So I called there and I told him, you got a paymaster, put him on the phone. I told him, look, I'm at Corral Veterans Hospital, I've never been mustered out. Now it's like, I think it was October of 77. I says,
47.
47,
Yeah.
yeah. And I says to him, get your ass over here and pay me. That's what I told him. So now here's a guy that kind of trained and came over and he paid me. And I'm going to surgery in the morning. Now he's paying me in 10s and 20s. I had $3,000 some coming. You know, when I went in, you started out at $50. And then you went 60. Then, you know, PFC got a little more, corporal a little more, and I'm sergeant a little more. I think the highest I ever got paid was $77. So now I had to be there a long time, and I had $3,000 some coming, right? So this guy comes and he pays me. So I tell the nurse, put this in the narcotics locker. I'm not allowed to. I told the doctor, I'm not allowed to. I said, give me one of these big, you know, safety pins that I had for my binder. I took and made it. In the morning, he put that thing on backwards, the gun on backwards. So I pinned it right up here, and the wire was about this thick. I get to surgery, and I told the anesthetist, I says, hey, I'm holding you responsible. Keep your eye on this. Because they give you sodium pentothal, and then you don't know nothing, right? When I finally came to, and I looked to see if it was there, it was still there. But they never mustered me out all that time.
Do you remember the war coming to an end? Do you remember hearing the news of that?
Yeah. No,
You were in Pearl Harbor then? Were you back in Pearl?
that's where I was, Pearl.
Do you remember hearing about the war in Europe ending? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
that was earlier,
Yeah, that was in May 8th,
May 8th.
45. Yeah, May 8th, 45.
See, now we hit
Yeah, you were
April,
wounded on this.
April 1st we hit, man.
Yeah.
April 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, April 1st we went to Okinawa. Cape Gloucester we went Christmas Day,
Yeah.
Christmas morning.
I think the Japanese were the fools on April 1st at Okinawa. So.
I don't know about that.
Well,
You know, they said that right at the end, the Japs, you know, were down in that southern part, and even the civilians jumped over a cliff. They thought we were terrorists.
Do you ever remember running into any of the Japanese civilians? on Okinawa?
In the northern part, yeah.
Yeah.
We give them our food, you know, that we had, because they were hiding in caves with children. Whatever we had, we gave them for their children, you know, so they have food, because they were hiding when they were bombing it. You know.
You've already talked about the things you've done since you've been out. That's important. I'm going to go to that one. And the friendships that you've made in the Corps while you were there. I know you mentioned talking about maintaining some of those for a while. Did you maintain contact with Colonel Walt?
No,
No.
you know, he said, when the war is over, he says, you live in Canton, Ohio. He says, you know, I worked at Hercules Motors. I said, yeah. I said, so did I. He says, I'll come down and see you. He says, I like that town. That's what he said. He was probably here in early 30s, you know.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Is he still alive?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Do you ever attend any reunions?
No, I can't travel.
That's right, you can't travel.
And besides, all the guys that I was with, them guys were all dead. I asked McReynolds that. He said, Pete, how many guys do you think are still alive, original? I don't know, and he'd tell me. He says, and besides, I can't travel. That's what he told me. Yeah.
How did your experiences maybe contribute to your thinking about military service and war in general?
Well, I'll tell you what. They told me if I'd stay in, if I survived, I could be a, what do they call that? Marine gunner.
Gunnery
There's only-
sergeant.
No, there's only
No.
one in the Marine Corps.
Oh, yeah.
Marine gunner, they call it. I don't know. And there's a guy that can go any place he wants. Enlisted personnel or with the officers. He can sleep with the officers or with the enlisted personnel. The only guy that's allowed to fraternize, you know. And the guy had the job. I forget his name. He was a real old man. He says, "You're enlisted." He says, "If you make it through the war," he says, "it's a racket." That's what he told me. He says that civilian, you know, if there's no war going on, he said a lot of times, you know, for 2, 3 years, I was never called. I was at home. I'm on call, he says, but you're getting paid, he says. That's what he told me. I says, no, I don't want no military life. I says, when the war's over, I'm going home. That's what I told him.
and thinking about your experiences in World War II, what did you think of Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War, and what we're in today? I mean, do you have any comments or thoughts on
Yeah,
it?
shouldn't be there.
Okay.
Every country should run their own country. We're trying to run the whole world now. We're going to be the police for the whole world. We're going to feed the whole world. Let's take care of our poor. Right? You know how many billion we're spending over there in Afghanistan and Iraq? And yet they're already cutting people on Social Security, the lower class, they're cutting them out. Food stamps, the ones that are getting a little, they're going to be cutting them off. Can you imagine that? And you know what they just passed, what was it, $28 billion for Iraq? That would take care of all them people for 1,000 years. But we take care of our own. That's my feeling.
Very good. I don't have any more questions. I mean, if you have anything else you want
No,
to share with us. And
I've talked out.
yeah. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy listening to your stories. I think they're fascinating. I think they are. They're fascinating. You're just a fascinating person. You have leadership qualities that are unbelievable. So
Yeah, I never had no trouble when I was a platoon sergeant.
I don't think
I
you
was
would.
strict. I was
Yeah, I
strict.
don't think you had any problems.
You know, when I first became a platoon sergeant, we got replacements. So the company commander says, I want you platoon sergeants to come down and pick out your men. Look at records.
Oh, yeah, this was a good story, I should have asked, yeah. This is good.
So, I didn't even go down. The other 3 platoon sergeants went down there and picked out the best men. He says to me, you know what? You got the bottom of the barrel. I says, I got the best part of the barrel. Here's what I found out when I was a private, the PFC, the corporal. Them guys at the bottom in combat are the most efficient. Believe it or not. Guys that, when they're in a city or someplace, they might go AWOL, get drunk, get in fights. Them guys are the most responsible in combat. They don't hesitate. Now they're hard to discipline, because the first group I got, first day, all the training, I wasn't getting across to them. So at night, when we could go see that movie, you know, we went in the swamp. I told them we got problems to do tonight. Second night, the same thing, we didn't sleep. And the regulars, a few regulars I had, they told them, hey, you can't outlive that guy and you can't outdo him. He'll run you in the ground. You better start waking up, start learning. Pretty soon I got their attention. In no time, I had the best platoon. Yep. And you could see it another thing. I never sent anybody to do what they did to me when I was the private. See what I mean? Send me out at night to get in touch with another battalion. We don't know where they're at night, so we don't fire on them. I got to go through Jap lines, and it was always me. And this one guy from the, see, it was the 1st Regiment. He says to me, "How's come they're always sending you?" I says, "I'm on a shit list." That's what I told him.
You're at the top of somebody's list. Yeah, it's just the shit list.
Yeah, if they made a mistake, I corrected them. And they didn't like that. Officers don't like that, you know that?
Yes, sir.
Damn.
There's a couple out there that do.
I know. Yeah.
Just a couple.
Walt was one.
Yeah.
Walt. Lieutenant Colonel Walt. He was a good officer.
That's great. Do you have anything else you want to ask?
One thing I'd like you to do for us.
What's that?
I want you this time I want you to look at the camera. Okay?
Okay.
I'd like you to tell us your name and when you were born, and finish it with, and I'm a World War II veteran.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
I'm Peter Athans. I was born in Canton, Ohio, February 11th, 1924. I joined the Marine Corps in 1942. And in 1947 I got out. After I got out of the hospital, 1947, I became a civilian again.
You're saying that I'm a World War II veteran.
Yeah, I'm a World War II veteran.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very good. Very good.